Oh, we're
Ready
not
to
live
go live?
yet.
We go live. We are live.
We
That
are
was
live.
fast. We're live for already 7 seconds, 8 seconds.
Wait.
We'll
Oh,
just
I
wait
see.
a couple of seconds, right, until everyone knows. So
Well,
we
no.
posted.
Also, it's not. It for the post. It says waiting for Tivum. Oh, there we go. So
Yeah, right, because we have a little bit of a
it's for
delay.
the.
There's a delay because we have the sensors watching, and so whenever you say words like or 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 then they mute the video. Oh, it already worked. See?
That's really crazy because I don't know which one to listen to.
Hello, let's start. Hello. We're live again, and I just told our two lovely participants that I haven't found out how, because we have this intro and I have to look into the camera. We have an intro, of course, and so far I haven't found out how to play the intro with sound when doing this whole thing on StreamYard. We're on StreamYard now since Google Hangouts closed its doors for live streaming conversations. So, in conversation 36, already 36, with a very cool topic and even cooler guests today on the show. We're going to talk about abstract photography, and we have at least the Tumblr expert for abstract photography with us today on the show. Amy, hello back. Welcome back on the
Hello.
show. Apparently, the wounds are not too deep from the last time you joined us. So she came back. We're super happy that you came back to talk with us, to have fun with us. Amy also sent us a couple of her abstract photos, so we're gonna watch. Look at her photos. We're going to talk about her photos. We hope that you guys and girls on the chat, by the way, hello to the chat. We hope that you will all participate. Also, talk with us on the chat. There is a possibility, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. There is a possibility for you out there to also send us your photos, at least if you're on Tumblr. But first things first, I already semi halfway introduced our guest today, Amy. Amy, of course. Well, introduce yourself a bit.
Introduce
Yeah,
myself.
shut up, Pete.
Right.
I don't know what to say. Except for hello.
Oops.
Hello. Yeah, really don't know what to say. I think most of you know me anyway, so here I am in the flesh. Hello.
What's your Tumblr or Tumblrs?
Tumblr is, I'm not sure. It is the photography by AJM. And then I also have an Instagram, and I believe that is almost the same. Let me see real quick. Amy Montico Photography on Instagram.
And so here we are. I finally managed to put the banner in. Photography by AJM. And we gonna I'm stupid because I put my lights this time. I came home so late and put my lights in a way that I don't really see anything. See?
You might also want to add the Instagram too.
Yeah, that's what what I'm doing right now. Amy Montico Photography.
Yep.
Right? I'm gonna show it as well. See the miracle of of modern technology. And Amy is, of course, also one of the founding members of the Abstract Challenge on Tumblr. So, in case you don't know, this blog, abstract-challenge on tumblr.com, with a challenge every month. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. So let's first also introduce my frequent collaborateur, Fernando. Say hi, Fern. All things Fern on Tumblr, and also admin of luxlit.net, a blog for supporting original photography on Tumblr. My name is Pete. I like pictures. You know that. My Tumblr blog is twoom.tumblr.com. I also have an Instagram, which is twoom.photo on Instagram. And I'm also one of the admins of Photos Worth Seeing. And I also kind of sort of I'm kind of sort of somehow connected to the Abstract Challenge. So what is the Abstract Challenge? Amy, let's talk a bit about the Abstract Challenge.
Hold on. Amy, what's your IG again?
Amy, what did it say it was? Amy, yeah, Amy Montico Photography. If I happen to mute myself, it's because my dogs are barking. So
if I happen to mute Fern, it's because he okay.
Fern is barking.
Do not help him, Amy.
Okay. So the abstract challenge. Steffi approached me. I don't know how long ago it was. It's been forever now. That hold on. That she asked me if I wanted to do this challenge with her to try and kind of get people out of their box, to try something different. And I said, sure, of course, because I was quite excited to work with Steffi. And so we started this challenge. How long ago has it been now? 5 years?
It must be about that time, right?
Yeah, I think it's about
Let me
5 years
check.
ago now. And and it's grown ever since, and it's really great. That
2017. It started in July 2017. So 1, 2, 3,
yeah, 4 years.
4, 5 years. No, it will be. It's the 5th year now.
Yeah. And so, hang on just a second. Can you put them out?
So the Abstract Challenge is basically a challenge on Tumblr. So there are tasks, challenges put out every month with ideas for abstract photos, and
Yes.
people make abstract photos, and we're going to show them on the blog.
Yep. It's really great because it was like, well, what do we want to start with? We started with the obvious of ICM, and then coming
Intentional
up with
camera
ideas.
movement, for those of you who don't know what ICM stands for.
Yeah, and just kind of going from there. And some of the things that we would put out there were new to us that we'd never tried. And so it's been a fun thing to do because it's a challenge for us as well. Pete, I know you shot very little ICM or any sort of abstract before you kind of got involved. And Fern,
Right.
dude, you've been putting all sorts of stuff out there for geometry.
Geometry is the current, by the way, the current abstract challenge of May of this year.
Yeah.
So let me put. I will try to put the blog on the screen so that we can see some of the photos and share screen. Share screen. Here we go. So does this? Yes. Now it's on. So this is our already Wujime. By the way, our guest from the last conversation, which sadly didn't work out for technical reasons. Geometry challenge, amazing photos,
The reference is
all
good.
sorts like natural photographs. Some are more abstract than others. So I hope nobody minds us showing these photos on the video. But well, we're basically part of. Fern, one of your photos.
Yeah, that's one of Fern's.
I was going to say, because I said this many times, I usually am just not, I mean, I think they're wonderful. I personally am rarely inspired to participate in it. But when I saw geometry, I'm like, oh, dude, this is my hamster wheelhouse. I'm all over
Exactly.
this. And I went, I mean, the very first day I saw it, I think that's the only day I photographed, and I took like 20 photographs or more actually. And it was funny because I wound up going to San Francisco I was going to San Francisco that day, and I was inspired to take pictures of stuff I would not have taken pictures of before. So thank you. It was fun.
I mean, it's great that you've taken that we found a subject, and that was kind of the whole idea, is finding subjects that would kind of draw people in and then go from there, and hopefully they would maybe be more apt to maybe to try some more.
So let me ask you, because you said something to the effect of at the beginning, and I'm probably misquoting you, but and either one of you can answer this, that the whole idea of the abstract challenge was to get people to break out of their hamster wheelhouse in a way, and to try new stuff. But it's interesting what you just said, that that you try to come up with new challenges that will maybe fire some people up to do certain things. But do you expect, and I'm sure again it's a personal thing, do you expect, or is your idea to sort of inspire people, let's put it that way?
Well, yeah.
Sorry?
Well, yeah, that's it. I think that's 100% it.
Right, but do you want to inspire people to participate in every challenge? Is what I was.
No.
Okay.
I think when Steffi and I first started this, it was like, we want to encourage and to inspire people to try something different, maybe something that they've never done before. Because I think when you shoot something all of the time and you try something different, it almost gives new focus to what you do to begin with. You know what I'm saying? You kind of take what you've learned over here and put it with what you normally do, and I think it can make your work better. Don't you think?
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because I do have my own way of seeing and so on, but I also, I mean, there's certain subject matter that I gravitate to, but even the way I photograph it winds up being, I mean, I have an aesthetic language or style. But it's always interesting to me to just even try something new within that style and so on, to although I have to say, for me, it's not usually, oh, I want to try something new. It's just, this is what's happening. This is how I'm going to do it now. It's not a matter of forethought. So it was interesting to me with this challenge to think, okay, I'm going to look for geometry all over the place. And I did it in different styles. Actually, one of the first ones was the one of the bowl on top of the plastic container, that's the one in color with the orange and browns and the little blue line on it, and that's something I might do sometimes, but it's not something that I would do, and it was actually still very much in my color photography style and composition. So it's fun. I have to say, it's fun to do.
They are fun.
Yeah, yeah. But I rarely pre-think how I'm going to, unless I'm at the moment of taking the photograph and I want to stand here and I'm going to, use this exposure and maybe look better at that, but I
Absolutely.
don't. Well, that was just, I mean, it was in front of me.
Right now, I mean, is this the photo you were talking about? But it wasn't the artist
No, no, no.
call,
It
right?
was one of the first ones from the beginning of the month, and it's in brown, and it's brown and orange, and it's got a lot of depth of field, because I shot it with my 55 millimeter prime. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what though, I enjoy looking at all of the different styles of photography and at the challenges themselves, because that still influences how I look and how I appreciate photography, which is the other important or one of the important aspects of it for me, is that it's for me, it's not just the taking pictures, but also the looking at, and I don't want to say critiquing, but it can become critiquing, at looking at and understanding photographs, because that helps me in how you know what I mean, look
Yeah.
at my own pictures. That one.
What?
Yeah, I think that was the very first picture I took. And it's still my favorite of all the ones I took, I have to say.
I love this because you've got the black with the shallow depth of field, so you have no idea what it's sitting on.
So
And
it's just
no,
the brown bowl, the spoon, and then below that it's the plastic container that had the food that I just finished eating, and another spoon in there. That's
but you see, I now that you've said, I now see an outline of the spoon, but because it's such a shallow depth of field, it just kind of looked like maybe light or something like that. But yeah, I think that's a great shot. I mean, because that's the whole idea of abstract. I think is that you don't have an idea.
right.
How do you
It's
how do
that
you
it's
define
abstract.
how do you define abstract, Amy?
Well, I think there's more than one way of describing it. I mean, it's either you've taken something so far out that you can't, you have no idea what it is. You might have an inkling of what it could be, and then there's the opposite of where you've just taken a portion of something and you've uh, you've highlighted that like the stamen of a flower, or maybe just the bottom part of a flower, or you know you've you've abstracted the view of what the whole thing is, and it's just a
Hmm.
portion.
And it's a very clear, and it's a very clear, very realistic image of just that portion, but it
Yeah,
winds up abstracting because of the way, that's not the way you would usually look at it. I mean, you wouldn't usually, and I guess you couldn't even see it if you got that close. I know I couldn't. But yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought of that other side of it. That's cool. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, I don't. I think it's such a wide, broad, you know, thing because I don't know. I like some of the stuff I do is multiple exposure, and even though you're laying things on down and you can tell exactly what they are, it's still an abstract view of whatever.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So would you let me pull up one of the phone. What? Windows just tells me that like I can't show the photo because I might not have enough RAM, which is like the stupidest thing ever because this well, okay, let me try to
Can you allow me to screen share and send me the pictures?
I can send you. Yeah, let me. Let me try something because I have them. Why
By the
doesn't
way,
this work?
I
This
have
is
to tell
really
you,
weird.
when you're on camera, you should have that head that's to your, well, I see it to your right, that one with the headphones. You should have that on screen. It's so much more pleasant than your
It
face.
is, right? I
Yeah.
know. I know.
I mean, when
But
when you're talking, I wind up looking at that just so I can. There you.
yeah,
Oh yeah, there you go.
let me do that. Right. So that's even two beautiful gentlemen. So
What is
much
that?
better, right? So let me try to. Here we are. Let me try whether I can do it this way. Yeah, I think I can share it this way. Yes. So this is one of those photos that, as you mentioned,
Yeah,
it's like of course we see what it is, right? Still, it is
exactly.
abstracted. So would you go, or would you be okay with a definition like taking something out of its ordinary context and showing it in a different way to to label it abstract?
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be another good way of saying what, describing what abstract is. Yeah.
Because I sometimes have the feeling that even if we look at, say, surreal photos, can be composites,
Yeah.
can be uh, um, photos that are like even portraits very often set in scene in a surreal way, in a surreal fashion, that they are abstracted in a certain way. And so to me it's often when we get submissions for the abstract challenge. Most of the time when we get submissions, I don't see them. I only see, okay, 5 submissions, and I open the folder and they're already, so Amy already put them all in in the queue of the blog. But I sometimes sit there and say, how is that, how does that qualify for an abstract photo? It's a cool photo, but where is the abstraction in it? And
Yeah.
then, so this is sometimes it's a fine line whether something can be seen as abstract or not. And I remember a comment that we once got on a photo, and it was even one of the um, announcements for a new challenge, and someone quote unquote complained that one of the photos, which happened to be one of mine, was not really abstract. This is not an abstract shot, because taking a photo of, and I forgot what it is, taking a photo of something is not, and he, it wasn't even what he mentioned, or they mentioned what it was. So apparently, this was what I answered, like apparently it's abstract enough so that you didn't even recognize it. So um this is, as you said, there's apparently no real definite definition for abstract
Well, I
art
mean,
or abstract photography.
I would think that there is a definition. I mean, if one of you, Fern, if you want to maybe look that up, of what uh, there is an actual definition. But isn't it like anything where it can be? I mean, with the challenges, we don't always stick to it being absolutely abstract. Which, should we? Shouldn't we? Should we just kind of let people work their way into abstract,
Right,
or what you
definitely.
call abstract, I don't see as abstract, or what I see as abstract, you don't. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. What's important for me, or would be important for me, is that I'd, I see what the other or why the other person would define it as an abstract photograph. No matter if I personally think this is abstract enough or is not abstract enough, as long as I can recognize that there is something in that photograph that is an abstraction of some sort, to
Yeah.
me, it qualifies as an abstract photograph.
So Amy, thank you. So for suggesting I look it up. I was thinking about it, but you kicked me into high gear. From My Modern Met, and I will share this on YouTube right now. Whoops, wrong one. Where the hell is this? Oh, there it is. My Modern Met. Boom. Excuse me. What makes a photograph abstract? Seem difficult to pin down an exact definition, but there are many characteristics that make up abstract photography. Most commonly, abstraction takes place when a photographer focuses in on a fragment of a natural scene, ding, 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 isolating from its context. But what I find really interesting is that when you scroll down a little or below that, there's a little more. Let's see. For instance, if you take a picture of a green apple, but zoom in on just the top of the running down the bright of a drop of water running down the blah, 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 you get the sensation. And so it's an abstraction. But under the history of abstract photography, Man Ray. And it's interesting. What made me think that was, or makes me think that's interesting, that they talk about Man Ray as being one of the, or actually the originator, is that he did it by taking photos of objects. And a lot of times they are recognizable objects, but they're just distorted in different ways or close up or whatever. So yeah, this is a highly recommend reading this little, I mean, it's short, it's maybe 2-minute read. And then the pictures that they have on here are excellent examples of abstract. So yeah, very cool. And I wanted to add about the whole challenge of it being abstract photography. When I was taking the photographs, and especially when I was looking at them in camera raw, what struck me was that some of the ones that I took were abstract, some of them were not. I still kind of liked them anyway, but I submitted them because it's like, whatever. If you use them, you use them. If you don't, you don't. But they weren't all abstract, but they still made me look at like the ones in the Bay Area with the in the ferry building with the entrance to the ferry. I mean, that's not abstract at all. But it was fun shooting, and I kind of liked that picture.
Well, the pyramid things on
the trash cans.
Yeah. Obviously you know what it is.
Right. Right. But it's also the point of view with the slightly, with the, instead of being at a 90-degree angle, I'm looking at it. So it distorts that. The other one that I took, which of course immediately I thought, oh, this is as abstract as it gets, is the reflection of the mirror in the men's room. With all the graffiti, that was, and then with me with the red T-shirt in the back, I really like that picture.
Can you share that photo somehow?
Yeah. Did I what?
Can you share that photo?
It's on the. Oh, hold on. Sure, I think I can. Let me go to.
Like when we talk about a photo, we better see it.
Posts. Hold on. So.
Is it on your blog?
Yeah. So how do I? Oh, share. Boom. Can I share? Yeah. Share screen. Share screen. Working. Share screen. Share screen. Whatever. Select window or screen. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. Manage permissions. Fine art. What the hell? It's making me go through everything I've got open. You have got to be kidding. Photography. Tumblr 4. Here we go. Wow, this is. Yes, allow. Oh my God. Is it sharing now? There we go. So this is the one of the Port of San Francisco. This is one of the ferry entrances. This is another one that's very, I mean, it's not an abstract. I just really liked seeing, I mean, I've been there a million times. I've never seen that. For example, at the top, the black and white one, this one right here. I've never, oh, you can't see it, but this one, the black and white one right here in the middle now. I never thought of that as being geometry on the bay, and yet it's geometry on the bay, on the water, actually. And then this is the one that one of the ones Amy was talking about. This is one of the other ones right here, where you know what it is, but it's just the angle. This is pointing at my crotch, which I didn't realize until after I posted it. And
I just noticed your feet.
oh, thank you. I love
No.
because we don't. I also noticed the feet. Like we
Yeah, I
don't
did.
think about your crotch all
Yes,
of the time.
yeah, let's just stay away from that. Toilet paper, which I thought was really fun, and I was really happy when you posted it. And this one, this is the one. Here we go. I can do this. Boom. Ta-da! When I saw the very geometric square shapes and rectangles, and then the chaos of the graffiti under it, I thought, dude, and this I took with my phone, which I never take pictures with my phone. But this was fun. It was also like, if anybody sees me in this public restroom, but it was fun to think about this stuff and to think what is abstract. And
I don't know that. I mean, like since we have Instagram, lots of people take photos with their phones on public toilets. So I don't think this is anything unusual anymore.
yeah, yet another reason why I really kind of stay away from Instagram. Yeah, not a fan of Instagram in general anymore. Still favor, after all these years, still think Tumblr is the best place to share and discuss and in a sense build community, as opposed to a place like Instagram that has now become about advertising and about being popular and
That's what bugs me about Instagram. Like every third or fourth post on my feed is advertisement.
But
Like
mine's
that.
like that on Tumblr.
Yeah, and on Tumblr it's almost, and on Tumblr it's every seventh. Unless I'm on my computer where I have an ad blocker.
No,
I don't
I'm always
care.
on my computer, so it's like, you know, and the advertising makes no sense whatsoever. To, you know, they kind of tailor the, or they're supposed to tailor. They don't. They just, boom, here you go.
But you know what's
But
interesting?
on Instagram, it's like what I'm always confused. Like
Yeah.
really confuses me on Instagram is like that people pay for their photos to show up on other people's feeds. Like I don't want to see that.
Yeah,
I get
no.
it when I get like advertisement for I don't know, a car, right? But I don't want to see photos of. But it's the same thing on Twitter when people pay for their tweets to show up on other people's feeds. It's like,
Yeah, I don't get
how
that.
crazy are
You're
you?
on a, exactly. I don't get that. I think,
Yeah.
you know, everything
I
is,
block these people. I do.
no, you really?
I really, if someone advertises their own photos or their own tweets on, I'm not a lot of on Twitter, but I block these people. I don't want to see their shit. If I blocked a lot of people on Instagram because I don't want to see their photos. I follow those people's Instagrams whose photos I want to see, and those I don't want to see, I don't want to see them, so I block them. Very simple.
But you never know. You might. I'll tell you what, I mean, I think there's obviously Instagram and Tumblr are so different of a platform where Tumblr is more of a community. You can get community in Instagram if you have to build your own community almost in a way of you know, around yourself. So
Right, but you know what I find, what I still find more solid and more workable for building community on Tumblr, And in a sense, if Facebook hadn't been messed up the way it's been messed up, it would have been, it was very much what Facebook was like. On Tumblr and on Facebook, you can share any kind of content. And you can and you can reblog content, which is what's helped really solidify a community, is that there we feature other people's work. And I still to this day acknowledge and am grateful for Tumblr, because I know that seeing my work reblogged on LensBlur was what drew my attention and made me think, wow, maybe I'm good at this stuff, you know? And I don't know if that would happen in, for example, in Instagram or in whatever some of the other ones were before, Flickr or whatever it was, you know, or even on Facebook, because let's go to Facebook, for example. Facebook, it would be my friends going, oh, great pictures, blah, blah, blah. And I love that they like my photography, but to be honest, having people who are interested in photography itself acknowledge that my work is solid enough to be featured, you know, in their blog.
Yeah.
And I've posted about this before. It's still to this day just sends me to the moon. That speaks volumes to me, especially because I don't take the kinds of photographs that you two take. Although, Amy, you're going off the beam in even more than I do. You know what I mean?
I'm way off the beam.
You're way off the beam. But you know, the kind of nature. I mean, I look at people like who's the German guy that takes? Well, there's several of them, but the one who takes these gorgeous landscapes
Denny.
that we. But yes, Denny,
Yeah.
Denny Bitter. I mean, I don't
He's
think,
insane.
yeah, but I mean, and he's wonderful photography, but it's the very mainstream photography that's very popular. I take relatively good pictures of stuff that's often abstract, that's often black and white, that's often more political, you know, that isn't the mainstream stuff that most people like. So if I were on being on Instagram, I might get that kind of feedback. But again, I can't also share about, oh, I use this, my 55mm lenses. I wrote about that, a lens, or how my camera broke, or how I'm depressed and how it's affecting my photography. COVID-19, how are you dealing with this? That whole conversation a couple of months ago. We couldn't do that on the other formats. We couldn't. You know, so to me, it brings in the Sean Tucker effect. This is the way I think of it. You know, it brings in on Tumblr, you can be the full human, and you can communicate publicly or privately in ways that you can't in other platforms. And to me, that's what makes it special, because, which is the other thing. I mean, sorry, I'm going to go on a little further. I've been
This is unusual for you, Fern.
I've actually paid for online photography courses twice, and I also joined a conversation with this you know, group with this guy on Instagram, great photographer, but I don't belong. It's not that I don't want to belong, but again, I do different kind of photography, and I approach it differently. I'm coming from, which I don't do it, you know. So for me, you know, there usually what happens is in all of these groups, even in the courses, there's a very like-minded mentality that starts forming, or most people are looking at the expert, which makes sense, and they don't really share. I mean, I remember one of the courses that I was on, the person who was running it suggested, why don't you start your own separate Facebook page where you critique each other, yada yada. And there was like 50 to 75 people in this course, and only 2 of us submitted anything. We wound up having a wonderful conversation, and we still communicate every once in a while on Messenger, but
Manjot, let me, because you said only 2 of us submitted something. We only have 6 people on the chat, and I think 3 of us are the three of us. Three of them are the three of us, but it doesn't matter. If you want your photos to be on this stream, and the two experts and me talking about your photos, you can submit them. In this conversation, we're going to work out something for everyone to be able to do this. For this conversation, you can send them. You have to be on Tumblr, so you can simply send your photos, either a link to a photo or the photo itself, to me. That is tvoom.tumblr.com, tvoom.tumblr.com. Send it to me on my Tumblr, or you can send it via the Ask or whatever, right? Send it to my Tumblr, tvoom.tumblr.com. We're going to talk about the photo in this conversation. Or if you watch this later, so not live, and you want us, whoever will be on the stream the next time, talk about the photo, you can send it later. So just let me know that you want us to talk about your photo. And if you want to talk with us about anything photography related, then join us. Also, just simply message me on Tumblr. So I'm pretty sure that we will be talking quite for at least half an hour still. But if you want a photo on the stream and us talking about it, ideally an abstract photo, we're going to talk about some of Amy's photos in a bit.
Yes.
Then just send it to me on Tumblr.
Well, you know what, Pete? If they want to have it in the discussion now, because I see that it's Steffi and Bud, and I think that's it, right? They can also just, if they have the link to their post on Tumblr, they can just drop it in the chat in YouTube, and we can then.
Oh no, they can't, because they can't send links in the chat.
Yeah. But to me, the thing that I also. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But I do want to get back to the abstract.
Because we're pretty good at analyzing photos, even though it doesn't.
Oh, we are. We are. No.
Really good.
Yes, we are. And I will say that it is a separate talent. Some people are good photographers.
Right.
Some people are good at critiquing. Some people are good at both. But Amy,
and I smell good.
Pardon?
And I smell good. That's my talent.
Trust me. Remember, Amy may believe that, but and Bud may believe that, but Steffi lives there, and I have met you face to face. Let's just proceed. So, Amy,
I have a huge nose. Of course, I smell good.
So, Amy, yes, Amy, about abstract photography.
Right.
So what I really find interesting, and what I think it would be great to hear you talk about, because you do kind of both. You do like what I did in that photograph of the plate, where you just use straight photography to use, for example, depth of field and cropping to make an image abstract, right? But you also go to town in post-processing.
Is this processed?
No. Well, no, it's not. That is almost straight out of camera. The only thing that's been done.
We'll look at processed photo.
That is processed.
This is a processed photo.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, but go back to the first one. Go back to the first one. How did you get that abstract sense of it?
This?
Yeah.
Zoom in and out, real quick. That was it.
So it was extended exposure, long exposure, and you did the zoom in and out?
Yeah.
So it's zoom lens zooming in and out while taking the photograph.
Yeah, I stood back so that I had room. I knew I was going to have room to crop, and so that was just a real quick zoom in and out. And that's, I mean, the only thing that's done there is the colors have been punched a little bit. That's it.
Oh yeah, no, that's yeah, that I wouldn't even question that whether you did or not, because what makes it absolutely brilliant is the sense of motion. And for a second, I thought, before you explained it, I thought you were doing camera motion, which I guess you would have gotten something similar, but not quite as focused in the center. That's what makes it really
Yeah.
interesting.
It only took me 25 shots to get that. The first 24 were practice. I got it right.
Well, okay, just as an aside, don't you really find it frustrating when you take those 25 pictures, but really it's the first one that's good and then the other ones aren't as good? What? Why? Which doesn't happen very often. So do you get ideas of doing like something like that from other photographers? And because I know you're like one of these people who does the, let me learn about photography, let me read what other people are doing, let me look at, so you're constantly educating yourself about our beloved art form.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a combination of, well, with abstract photography, especially with any sort of ICM, you've got your pan, your tilt zoom. You've got kind of a limited number of things that you can do with ICM. And
So ICM again, intentional camera movement.
Yes.
So that's what we do when like what usually happens when we have an unsteady hand, or when the shutter speed is too slow, that the camera shakes. So what if it's not intentional, it's called camera shake. If it's intentional, it's called ICM. And if we want to hide that it was unintentional, we call it no. So this is a technique to create motion, or to show motion in photographs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because you've got, pan blur, which shouldn't be necessarily, I don't think, confused with motion blur, or with what I want to say. I can't think. Because your pan blurs are, I think of more as trying to, like take a photograph of a car as it's moving, or a dog as it's moving, and you kind of get the two-tone blur, the double blur kind of thing.
Now, would you consider those an abstraction when, let's say, it's a car moving and you're doing the pan?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Even though the car.
That
But
is just multiple exposure.
Oh yeah, no, and that's gorgeous, by the way. But in the pan blur, let's say the pan blur with a car, that you can see that it's a car, but the rest of it is blurred because you've got the motion. Do you consider that an abstract?
Sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, it still makes sense because the background is okay. All right, I never thought.
It's like you're taking the car that is in focus, or a bike, or a tuk-tuk, or whatever, and you've got this perfect in focus, and in a like an ethereal setting.
Ethereal setting. That's it's abstract. I never thought of it that way. I never thought of it that way. Thank you.
The picture on the screen, is that a pan blur?
That is, it's a multiple exposure.
Okay.
Multiple exposure, and I think that within that there is some motion, but it's also 9 shots, so it might have been sandwiched in the middle.
9 shots.
Yes.
Wow. How do you do a multiple exposure of 9 shots?
I can do up to 9 shots within my camera. That's all done in camera.
Right. You can do 9 shots in your camera.
Yeah.
So wait, hold on.
Why can't I do 9 shots
can.
multiple exposure? I can?
You probably can. Yeah, your newer camera, Pete, you probably can. I know I could do that too. Actually,
but I saw your contribution on the chat. I'm coming back to that. So let me check that, because it happens that I have one of the later models of Amy's cameras.
So Amy, get back to this for a second while Pete is trying to learn how to use this camera. Um,
Yeah.
with this, since it was 9 exposures, was the camera itself moving, or is this 9 exposures of exactly the same thing that then you sort of layer one on top of the other and create the sense of motion?
No, this one was. This is all handheld. I never take a tripod with me.
Oh my.
I cannot be bothered with a tripod.
Oh,
That's what. You know what?
Oh
That's
my God,
one
I can't
extra
do
thing.
9.
Yeah. Exactly.
I can do 9 shots, multiple exposure. I didn't know that. I did like 2 always. Well, always. I haven't really done too many multiple exposures. I'm
there you go.
shocked to the bone.
You just
Yeah.
learned
9.
something.
Now,
Will that keep you quiet, being shocked, even for a couple of minutes?
No, when I'm shocked, I'm loud and talkative like usual because I'm shocked from the moment I was born. I've been shocked. This
Yeah,
is my
there's
natural state, being
there.
shocked.
Anyway, Amy, go ahead. So wait, so
So
there,
I wasn't really too, it wasn't really too much of a difference to me when I met you the first time because it was Fern.
so so here there is what's the exposure speed for this?
I
Do
don't
you
know.
remember? You don't know? Okay.
I don't know. I can find it though. Hang on.
No, because I'm curious because what I'm thinking about is, so this is handheld, so there was probably some motion blur just from the picture taking to begin with, correct?
Hang on. Yeah, possibly. I mean, I know that when I do some of those, I try to add an element of um of motion in there, whether it's uh, pan or letting the people like slowing it down enough that the people will cause the blur. But and I know with that one there was I did do some. It could have been Zoom. I don't remember exactly because that was last summer, I believe.
You know,
Possibly
I
2 summers
absolutely
ago, a couple summers ago.
I could look at this picture forever. I love the almost brutalist angularness of it, the darkness of it. I the and yet how there's the people which lends some curves, the light which sort of just breaks the harsh straight lineness of it. But and also from the dark in almost in the center to the light, it's and I go up and down and I look the leading lines into the light in that darker area. It's just a gorgeous photograph. I mean, the more I look at it, the more I almost envy you.
Well, I tell you what, Sheffield doesn't have a lot of interesting buildings as far as newer kind of things. And so getting these types of shots within Sheffield is harder to do because it's you just don't have the
Right.
pockets of stuff. Um, and so this place is just like you've got the one building behind, which is a parking garage. It's kind of got the different tilting, different exterior with these two glass not apartments, but office buildings. So you've got this little tiny corridor, and whether I'm shooting it from this direction or from a different angle, which is more wide open, that's about it. That's
No,
about it for Sheffield.
and it's fascinating because there's a sense of claustrophobia in this towards the center, and of course the chaos of it. But then that light, and I know it's coming down, but I almost want to say like it's almost shooting up and out. So it's even messing with the natural order of things by making the light look like if it's shooting out as opposed to what's actually happening, which is the light coming down from the top. It's a gorgeous photo.
Well, thank you.
And I love, and you know how I feel about no fucking trees and no fucking people. And yes, I know that's going to be bleeped out, but but the fact that it's got just
We
that.
can't have fucking people on Tumblr because porn is not allowed anymore.
But all that, oh, but
Oh,
but you could show fucking trees,
That is true. That's what I do all of the time
that's all the time.
on my blog.
The whole the where was I going with this? Yeah, the sense of scale that's also altered because you have the what is recognizable as people at the very front, but it messes with the sense of scale because it goes all the way back and you have that depth, that perspective. It's just an astounding photo. The more I look at it, the more I fall in love with it.
I think that's the one cool thing about the multiple exposures of as abstract is that you can add that element of depth because you can set your camera to whatever you want. You know, that could be set at f8, f9, f10, whatever, although you're losing light.
Right.
But because you're setting those shots on top of each other and building up layers of whatever. And I think also in this one I've also zoomed in and out maybe a little bit to kind of give that feeling of it narrowing, even though it is perfectly straight. If that makes sense.
That's interesting because I love that you said that about the increasing or decreasing your exposure setting because or your aperture setting because really in the end with those layers you can darken some as you and increase exposure and so on so that you can create afterward all these effects layer by layer that add that convert into. I mean, I'm trying to discuss this. I don't do that kind of stuff. I probably never will.
You should try though. You should
No,
try if
you-
you've
But
got
you
the
can't do
capacity.
9 photos multiple exposure. You
actually,
can't do that.
wait. With my camera, there is actually a setting where if you have it on the tripod and it's something fixed in front of you, you can take, I think it's 20 photos at a time so that you have the layer. I can't remember what it's called, but it is something that's very limited use, I would say, although now you've made me think it might be interesting to just use it in general. But honestly, Amy, and again, I don't, the way I saw the bowl on the plastic container, and it's something that most people wouldn't see, and I got that picture. I see things that way. I don't see things this way, and the whole process of the layering and everything, I probably could do it, but my experience is that when it's something that complicated, it's like cooking. I love to cook, but if I have to follow a recipe with more than 4 ingredients and a couple of things to do, I get lost or I get exhausted when I'm just, so it's no fun. And
Well,
this,
I
see what I
think
mean?
with these, it's just the fun of playing, of
That's
trying
it.
this, and trying that. There's a photographer. Her name is Stephanie Young. It's Jung. She's actually a German photographer, a young lady, and she does this type. And she says that she never uses more than 3 in camera because it gets muddy, and they do tend to get muddy after a while.
That's
So,
interesting.
but then she also does like the first one you showed with the church. That was single exposures, put together in Affinity, layered together in Affinity.
So let me ask you this. Do you sometimes have one picture, just one exposure that you see is awesome and that inspires you to create multiple copies or layers of it or whatever so that you wind up getting that same multiple exposure feel?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
So let's say you have just the one picture of a building, but and you see it, and you look at it and you see, wow, this might be really good as one of these multiple exposure, multiple layer photographs, like the one with the light beam that we saw. You could conceivably, or could you conceivably create, you know what I mean, copies
And
and then create.
you can, and this is one of the techniques that she uses, is she'll use one photograph
Ah,
and she will layer that one photograph over and over. And but it gives an effect of receding or rescending, repeating, and I don't necessarily care for that personally. So I've tried it. I've tried editing something that way, and I don't care for it.
that's interesting because you that, and I think that's the difference between us, for example, is you're willing to try it. I just have no interest. I mean, I love it, but I have no interest in actually doing it.
Well, I would love to see you at least break out of that shell and give it a try. You may
And,
not like the outcome, and you might actually see a new
oh yeah,
a new door for you to try. You know, something else.
and I don't disagree, but you know what, the way I always think of it in the long run, for me, it's just such a challenge to pick up the camera and get a good picture in the first place. I mean, it's a fun challenge.
But the thing is that you don't have to go out and look for specific
Right.
subjects to do that. You
Right.
can do multiple exposure or pet ventosa type in the round photography with multiple exposure in camera, and just tilting your camera around a flower and getting it from different angles or different, and it creates such a cool image
It
that
really does.
But that's actually something that because I'm whenever we announce a new challenge on the abstract challenge, I'm usually the last one of the three of us who who takes a photo because I'm just way too disorganized. Let's face it. So, but
no, you're
that's the
busy.
thing, and this
You're
is
busy.
really I mean I feel Fern completely because I'm kind of sort of, if it comes to photography, sort of a perfectionist, and I want exactly that, and I'll do that. So, and this is
I do. I
it
just
was very um it is a huge thing, or was a huge thing for me to accept that specifically in abstract photography, in some parts of abstract photography, accepting failure, or accepting that of 10 photos, 9 will be just simply nothing, not just, well, not a good shot, but just simply nothing. There's nothing in there. This is not usable at all. Throw them away. So accepting that, and that the 10th photo might be something. That was a huge thing for me to learn and to accept, and this really helped me to go more relaxed in other parts of photography, because when you say, well, if you understand and accept that of 10 photos, 9 will be shit,
Oh yeah.
and 9 will be some, not even just a bad photo that might be slightly out of focus or a bit blurry or just not framed correctly, but just simply nothing.
rubbish.
There's
Rubbish.
nothing in there in
Right.
that shot. So
But
accepting that, so you'll do things quite differently. And then if that switch in your head is flipped, then things become interesting in terms of then you start um to experiment. And I remember one photo that I made for, I think it was long exposure, or long time exposure to the challenge, when I had in my feed, without any edit, straight out of camera, in one photo I had my feet and my face in one photo, and it took me like 15 or 20 attempts to get the camera long time exposure, like 3 or 4 seconds, pointing at my feet and then pointing up into the mirror, or no, actually like this, to have and holding the camera steady enough to have both my feet and my face in the photograph.
I remember
And
that
this is
photograph. It was awesome.
and this was like, for me it was really like, and I will try to find it. What Because I'm looking at the chat, but right, some of us, Pete, had to figure that out right away. I think Bot refers to that a lot of photos are just simply nothing. If I must be, yeah, because he wrote it a minute ago. So it took me a long time to accept that. I mean, of course most of my photos are shit. Like
Oh,
95% of my photos are shit.
no.
But they are shit
I'm
because
calling
I
bullshit.
mentioned, like, pardon?
Well,
I'm calling bullshit.
well, you know, Amy.
No, because you don't see
Yeah,
these
yeah.
photos,
And
right?
I was,
I don't show them to anyone.
yeah, and I posted, and I know it was reblogged in Let's Talk Photography. The guy who I think on Instagram posted the pictures I show my friends, and there's these gorgeous nature pictures of animals and stuff. And then the 500 million that nobody sees, and he shows all these. So I'm not. I feel the same way as Pete does. I have to say, and the one thing, and I've said this, and I'll keep saying it probably at every one of these. The one thing that convinced me to just shut up and accept that my photos will sometimes suck was Richard Avedon photographing in 2 weeks in Texas with a crew of people and all that equipment, and he finally ended his, what is it, the Western Project or whatever it was, American West, because he didn't take any pictures in 2 weeks that he liked. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, Richard Avedon, I'm golden. If Richard Avedon gave up and couldn't take two good pictures in 2 weeks with a crew,
But
I'm a
here's the
champ.
thing that you're
Thank you,
forgetting.
Fern, by the way. Thank you very much, because
About
I
what?
just won my bet, because I said he will mention Richard Avedon in this, because he always does it.
I already did.
Right.
I already did mention him.
I know.
But see, here's the thing that the both of you forget is that your perception of what is good
Oh,
out of your photography
yes.
is not my perception of what is good out
Right.
of your photography.
Yes.
Because what you think is crap, I'm going to think, wow, that's pretty incredible.
Yes and no.
Or yeah, that's really shit.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm gonna go, since we're talking about abstract, and I don't know if I could even find the picture. I don't even know if it's on my Tumblr anymore.
Let me just I found the photo that I was talking about.
No minutes up.
I can share the photo. I just have to.
Come on, sir.
It's probably
So,
this one.
so anyway,
Yeah.
no. Oh, there we go.
It's
Oh,
this
that's
one.
a cool picture, Pete.
So
That is
this is straight out of camera, no edit.
Wow.
So
That is
my
a cool
feet and my face. It was in a and it was in a mirror. So my face in the mirror. So I stood in front of the mirror, held the camera, pointing at my feet, holding it like half a second, then pulling it up and holding it to the mirror to see the face. So
and
it's
what
not a double exposure. It's a long time exposure.
and do you think you could ever take that again? Get
No.
that? And that's the thing about abstract photography.
Right.
Oh yeah.
You are never going to get the same photograph twice. No matter
Right.
how hard you try, it's
Well,
not going to happen.
I'll go you one further. I think with photography, because I have retaken some photos of things, and they're never the same. Even with the same camera, there's always something different. But Pete, I have to tell you something. This photograph is so Hammer film, late 50s, early 60s. Peter Cushing.
Yeah, right.
The Vincent Price, Christopher Lee. This photograph is just so it's astounding. It's absolutely gorgeous. But I want to say about what you were saying, Amy, about the pictures, what you might think is good, others might not. So when I had my baby, my D50,
And I won another bet.
Ding 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 ding.
but it's a part of the but it's a part of
It's
the
part of your road.
and it's a
Part of
part
your
of my
policy.
it's part of my journey.
Good. Yeah, of course.
I took a photograph. I was in the office late at night, and in one of the cubicles at the time, I was in a cubicle farm, had these artificial daisies or whatever, I don't know, and it was low light, and I had my camera, which I mean, and I took a picture of it, and it had all this blur, and I thought, and I only took the one picture. And I went in and went at the camera raw and did just some stuff with the color, and I posted it on Tumblr, and Lens Blur reblogged it, and I was just shocked out of my mind because I thought, yeah, it's cute, but it's an abstraction in a way, but it's again. So I don't disagree with you to a point because about what I think is a bad photograph, you might think is a good one, and then there's the flip side. What others might think is or may not think is a good photograph. Some people will, but the bottom line is there are photographs, and all three of us I think can agree that you look at, and the way I think of it is the photograph itself is telling me, dude, off me now, do me a favor, because I stink to the high heavens. And there are lots of photographs like that, that are just horrible. The Richard Avedon bad photos that made him quit the project, Anyway, yes, go ahead. So what do you want to say?
Bud wanted to talk about this photo of yours, Fern, and Bud on the chat for those who watch. And let me just quote what Bud wrote about that photo, because he shared that photo on our blog, Photos Worth Seeing. And he wrote, "What an amazing abstract photograph. This could be anything. The only reason I know it's an architectural abstract is that it says so in the description. The way the building disappears into the sky, the Escher-like patterns, the central backbone, everything just blows me away. The art comes through no matter what tool the artist was using at the time." So, yeah, this is what Bud wrote about the
Thank
photo.
you,
Let's
Bud, by
talk
the
about
way.
that,
I think
because this year definitely, um, definitely qualifies as an abstract, and definitely qualifies as a photo to be shown on this. And Bud writes something on the chat. Years ago, I asked someone on Tumblr if they ever commented that they didn't like a photo. They replied no, because they had no idea what the photographer was going for. This is brilliant.
Yeah.
more people need to take that into consideration.
Absolutely.
Or if you can't say
Absolutely.
anything nice, don't say anything at all. Just say
That's it. And
Yeah, but this
Go
is
ahead.
yeah.
Well,
Totally.
I mean, the one situation, and we need to do a critiques thing again, Pete.
Yeah.
The one situation might be where the person asks for feedback, then of course. But I think even when I give feedback, if it's asked, and because Pete, we're the same way. It's usually on the positive side, even if we're saying, well, this, but then there's this and this. But it's always about elevating the photographer, or whatever the situation might be, because that's, I think, really how you get comfortable with accepting feedback and how you learn.
Right.
Some people don't feel comfortable giving feedback at all. As y'all know, I have no problems writing on your comments. I think this is great because of this, like Bud did with me, which, by the way, I was very surprised that Bud that disappeared in Photos Worth Seeing. But I have to say, and yes, Pete, you're going to win your bet again. This was taken with my D50. And my original edit of this photograph, when I posted it, was not as dramatic as this. This is something that, 5, 6, 7 years after I took it, I looked back. This is actually taken almost exactly 7 years ago. I looked back now and I thought, wow, I need to redo this with my perspective now.
Wow.
What, you know what I mean? And how I have learned to make these architectural images pop. It's fascinating to me also because this is a landmark. This is a global landmark in a way. It's definitely a landmark in San Francisco. It's a Transamerica Pyramid building in San Francisco, which is, you know, something that's very recognizable in here. It's like, what is this? I messed up the gorgeous building.
But the thing is that good photography lasts. It stands the test of time.
Yes.
You took that photograph 7 years ago, and you could go back and take that same photograph now, but it wouldn't be the same because you've got a different camera. It's going to be sharper. It's going to be crisper. You know, but this is a great photograph.
Well, and it's
The
also
way the lines go off, the way they, you know, it's not just. I mean, yeah, of course, it's the way you've edited it, but there's optical illusions going off to the side of where things are coming this way and things are going that way and things are going this way, and then you've got the line straight up and you've got. I mean, it's a great shot. There's no doubt about it. That is an awesome shot.
I agree with Steffi, and I want to go back. I love your multiple exposures. Let's talk about my picture, because I want to talk about the project that you're on now of photographically, not imitating, but producing photos that are inspired by abstract artists, contemporary abstract artists. What the hell made you start thinking about doing this?
I was in a slump. It's like I needed something to kickstart, you know, get my juices flowing, and I just happened to have a Paul Klee, um, what do you call him? A picture, a print post of whatever. And I was looking at it and I thought, I wonder if I can recreate that very simple. Because I mean, you know, Paul Klee's stuff is kind of, in a way, I don't want to say it's childish, but it is childlike with the not always his straight lines, not always filled in or whatever. It's you know what I'm saying? He leaves blanks, he leaves undone colors. So I thought,
Mm.
can I replicate something like this in camera? And so I went out my front door and I took that. It's not a multiple exposure image. It is just processed, where I took one layer and sent it through a process to make it squares.
So this is this photo.
That photo.
Okay.
And that is taken out. I basically walked out my front door, looked down the street because I live at the top of a hill. That is at the bottom of the hill. And it just, I built it up with layers, with, like I said, taking one image, putting it through processing where it comes out as cubist or blockist, and then layering that with the photograph itself and using masks to get rid of it and making lines stronger by using some contrast. And that's that.
So real quick, Pete, stop sharing. Let me share, because I brought up some Paul Klee images in case somebody doesn't.
Good. Very good.
So know what they look like. And coincidentally, share screen, sure, allow, Ooh, oh, share select. Where is it? Where
We
is
have
it?
some Paul Klee images in Munich and in our art museums. We saw some originals last year when we went there, which was
Wasn't
pretty.
he German, Austrian,
Yeah,
something?
yeah. I think he even lived in Munich, if I remember
I think, yeah, I
correctly.
think he did.
Let me check.
How come?
It's too long. Yeah, Blauer Reiter. He was definitely in Munich together
What?
with
Okay,
he
share.
was I think he was Swiss, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly, and but was part of the art collective, the Blaue Reiter, the Blue Rider, if if we want to translate it, with August Macke and Kandinsky and all these people.
Well, see,
So
Kandinsky is another one because you look at
yeah,
Well, I can't even say it now. And and he's got these very
he also was
textured.
sorry, yeah, also did Bauhaus stuff, like
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah,
really,
I couldn't think of it. Very contemporary, modern, minimalist.
yeah.
But Kandinsky also, he used a lot of geometry with with squigglies and whatnot. So
There we go. That's a Paul Klee. And what I find fascinating, this is the very first one, Amy, that came up in the search, and you were talking about how you went outside and you took that photo, and this one may well have been taken out, been a painting of just outside his front door, because it's
yeah,
got all these little trees or bushes or branches in it, and that just fascinates me. Here's another one, a little bit more realistic, if you will. Um, there's another one.
Yeah,
So
okay. I have.
this is what's inspiring Amy now. Oh, and I love the fact
I
that
saw that one, the original.
it's gorgeous. I love the colors, but I love the fact, Amy, that you first described it as cubist and then called it blockist, and there is a difference.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is what's firing Amy's imagination now. Oh, cool. There we go. That's more. So
That's all
anyway,
cubist.
Yeah, like this. Just that, there's real strong, almost primary colors.
yep.
Where I took mine the opposite way, where I did go with, technically they are primary colors, the backgrounds of some of them, but they were Christmas lights, and so you get that almost that fusion of different colors that aren't really in there. Like the reds might be more pink, and the yellows might be more orange because it's sitting next to the blue, or it's sitting next to the red. So
Have you thought of taking that same image?
That photo?
Oh, there we go.
no, that's straws. That is a macro of straws.
A
Oh,
macro what?
That is a macro shot of
Macro
straws. Yeah,
of straws. No.
using a
Oh my
macro,
God.
using the macro tubes
Yeah.
and a vintage lens at 1.8, a light behind, and that's what that is.
Awesome.
so how did you get that watercolor effect? Is it because of the vintage lens? Did you do
It was
anything?
the vintage lens. That was it.
Okay. So
And
that
it's moving the camera back and forth
ah,
to make it look more like donuts instead of, you know what I'm saying? Instead
it's
of
lunchtime here. Stop it. Uh, so Pete, go back to that first photo of hers, the one that you showed, the one from outer door. Because have you thought of, Amy, of going back to that one? No, not yeah, this one.
Yeah,
Have you thought of
hit
going
the
back to
click.
this one and instead of doing the very earth tones, the very burgundy colors, have you thought of ramping up the vibrance and the saturation, or even just doing anything to just, instead of the muteness, to just make it like jump? Or was that part of your process and you decided on this?
I went with this because it was more, what do I want to say, more true to the Kandinsky almost, or not to the Kandinsky, to the Klee in a way. But that is the true colors of what is outside. There was no, the rooftops are red, the buildings are pebble dash, so they're kind of a warm hue. Some are lighter, so you've got the lights, or the not lights, the windows that that reflect the light, because the sun was behind me, and that was, the sun was shining directly that way. So I just went with the natural colors of what was there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I see now it's even more interesting. So in a way, you didn't really, you
No.
wind up not altering the sense of place.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow.
Whereas the other ones, I went the opposite direction, where
Right.
I made them, really bold colors to go with the bold geometry. Whereas this was more, this is it. This is what a British estate looks like, almost, to a degree.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. So what, and I want to go back to how in the name of all that is Batman do you come with the inspirational, oh, I want to do this?
I look at things. I am the type of person that I I can never be one photographer. I am never going to be able to do landscapes. I am never going to be able to go and just do street photography or do yada yada yada. My my brain just is like, no, 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 no. I'm bored. Let's try something else. So I look for inspiration elsewhere to try. A lot of my experiments do not work. They just
There you go.
big fat
So,
fails.
wait, but you know what? Now I'm going to say to you, but maybe some of those experiments Pete and I would like and others would like. So
Yeah,
there you go. But you said you, and I want to hone in on this. You look for inspiration. So do you look? And I'll tell you why I'm asking, because in my case, I am inspired by what I see and what I sometimes visually and rarely see differently. I just look, and like that photograph of um, the pyramid, Transamerica pyramid. I just looked up and thought, oh, cool. I took a picture of it. So do you search out inspiration?
I do. Yeah, um, but I also am limited to where where I go. For instance, I could go into town and I could do street photography, or I can do buildings or whatever. But I only go into Sheffield maybe twice a year, maybe, just because of the logistics of it. Plus, this last year with COVID, I got into town one time, in kind of in between lockdowns. But for me, it's what I can take when I walk out my front door.
Oh, okay.
And so, um, I like macro photography. This spring has been absolutely rubbish for spring flowers and for macro, because it's just been rainy and it's been windy. And, when you're doing macro, you can only really do the macro dance, as we talked about before, to a degree. And but when things are like this, it's just no bueno.
Oh dear God, yes. And it macro is one of those things where the tripod comes in very handy. I learned from the experience of trying to do it handheld. I can still do it sometimes, but it's especially if it's the really close lens.
Yeah, I
Ooh,
still don't use.
no.
I don't like tripods.
Although you do get some interesting abstracts, but again, not the stuff that I think is good, or that even when I posted on Tumblr, most people were like, "Hey," because they're just not good photographs, and I get that. Oh wow!
I will have to say that I am going to have to try using a tripod because Affinity, with their latest update, they have added focus stacking. So I'm gonna have to just try it. But
That's what it is. Yeah. By the way, I think that's what it is. My camera does photo stacking in camera.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Me,
almost.
ours does not do that.
What? Well, maybe you have to be. I don't know your camera, Fern. But I presume I can be wrong, but I presume it's the same thing as on my camera, focus stacking, as in that your camera allows you to do the preparation shots for focus stacking. So have different focus layers, so have different photos with different focus layers, so you can set the steps and then do the focus stacking later on the computer, because focus stacking is merging different shots with different focus layers together to have a comparatively deep
Deep
field of view.
depth of field.
Not field of view.
Depth of field.
Depth of field. So sorry. Thank you, Amy. So I guess it's that. I would really, again, I can be wrong, but it would really surprise me if this is something that the camera can do, because we know that from HDR photography that, well, cameras can do that now, can do HDR, which is not really HDR what they do, because if they already merge these multiple exposures together, the resulting photo is not an HDR, but a fused photo, right? It's a exposure. The word escapes me now. It's a well, exposure fusion, and we don't have really high dynamic range in the final result, but a merged photograph. So, but I can be wrong. But I don't think that the camera itself does focus stacking.
You're muted, Fern.
No, don't tell him, please. Don't tell him that he's muted. It's good. Let him be muted. Let him talk. It's good. It's fine. Let's just nod and smile.
So I have a story about that. My former one of my former bosses, when we're in meetings and he's running the meeting, he's like, "Oh, I can mute Fern, or I can mute Fernando." They don't call me Fern. I can mute Fernando. Boom, and I'm like, "But I haven't said anything." So yeah, apparently it's a universal thing that I should shut up. But I don't know if it's photo stacking. I don't remember the name, but because it's something that I don't use, probably will never use. No, well, maybe, you never know. But it does take all these exposures.
Tone mapping was the word. I'm sorry. Tone
Tone
mapping.
mapping.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, whatever. It's just something that it's one of those features that you know. So Amy, what?
No, I just wanted to say we indeed have a couple of submissions of photos. So we have two wonderful photos that I think are perfect examples for two very different ways of approaching abstract photography. One is kind of a finding the abstract in nature, and the other one is creating an abstract photograph. So, but let's first please continue, Fern, with
No,
the
no, no, no.
question
Let's do
for
that
Amy,
because
and
I
we're gonna talk about these photos in a bit.
dude, it's been almost 2 hours. It's been an hour and 40 minutes.
1.5 hour.
No, well, an hour and a half. Yeah, okay. That's a lot of talking, even for us. I know we never run under an hour and a half, but no, show those pictures and I'll ask Amy later.
All right.
So we
And
can
I'll
wrap up.
forward. Okay. And we'll do that. If
Yeah, by the way,
His
don't
Majesty tells me to do that.
don't
I'm
tilt
gonna do
forward
that.
that way that you did a couple of seconds ago because you cover
So this
the
is
more attractive face behind you. Yeah, don't do that. No, because I'm no. The other
this
one.
is, I think, by the way, yeah,
That
by
is
Steffi, submitted by Steffi. This is, I think, a brilliant example for finding the abstract. I guess that there's not so much done in post, other than maybe making this photo black and white, right, and doing the usual tweaking, but
that is almost like it's almost like two different photographs put together. You know what I'm saying? Because you've got the tree at the top that is, from what I can tell, is pretty sharp, mixed with the, the water
it's probably water.
distorted,
Yeah,
the water distorted at the bottom. I think that's.
But you know what my question is, because I see several sections of the water reflection part is the way I'm thinking of it, that are very geometrical, actually, especially towards the right. There's almost a perfect square.
Yeah.
Was that because I'm also almost thinking, by the way, that it's the same picture of those branches on the top that then were taken and flipped so that that bottom reflection may not have even been there and was created after the fact in whatever, in Photoshop, and so it's created multiple exposures, maybe even some distortion of the, but that's that. I mean, there's it's just a cool picture. And
that's a good picture.
hold on. And the other thing I love about this picture is that it's almost literally divided in half.
Yeah.
And you know how I love that kind of thing, but it's done beautifully. So yes, Steffi, what did you do? Tell us.
Well, I have my presumptions, knowing Steffi and how she works, but I don't know, of course.
Oh,
I would
I
doubt
would
that
say
there
that
was
this is one
Photoshop
shot.
involved. I'd very much doubt that Photoshop is involved or was involved in that.
I would say
Uh,
that is one single exposure because
I'd also
Steffi
say that.
does not usually do any sort of photo manipulation, so to speak.
well, that's what, yeah, because that's what I was thinking too. But that's, I mean, but that's what's great about this picture, that it's, what is it? You know, and the other thing I really like about it is that if I'm wrong, I think I might be wrong, but it almost looks like it was taken straight overhead, which is kind of impossible because if there was water or whatever that is on the bottom half, then where's her reflection? So that also is just outstanding. And what makes me think that it's taken overhead from the reflection is the very squareness of that one section. It doesn't look like it's taken at an angle. It looks like it's taken from straight up. But again, I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. That's really cool.
Yeah, she writes. I showed it, right. It's only the reflection in a lake, so there's no Photoshop or really heavier post processing other than black and white. So this is what I find. What kind of the thing that really made me think about it. Number one, what you said, Fern, like it's not the usual kind of drops that I would presume to be roundish. It's really like they're almost squares, right?
Yeah.
This is the one thing. And then we have these parts that are blurred, like as if the lens was kind of blurry, or as if something's on was on the lens, but it seems to be everything a reflection in the water. So the ripples already kind of were apparently enough to create, I don't know, yeah, you see the cursor, like these parts here, right, where it's blurry
Yeah.
in the branches, or in these parts here. Also here it looks like as if something was done to the photo later, right? But
Right.
apparently it wasn't.
Yep.
I love that shot.
I do
And
too.
it has a really organic quality with
Yes.
the textures here, like really as
The
soft
sky, is it
and
this the
grain.
sky? Is it this clouds? Is this, I
Right, yeah.
assume.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It has some
And it's interesting
it's
because
like snowflakes falling or something
yeah,
really cool.
yeah. But what's interesting to me is that in a way, the lower half is sharper than
Yeah.
much of the branches on the top, which is the real thing. I'm assuming, I don't know, because it could all be a reflection. To me, it looks like there's the branches up here and the reflection down here, but the whole thing could be a reflection. Who knows? Cool photo.
It is cool.
Definitely. Then
But
we have
then,
another one.
what do we
Oh,
expect
sorry.
from Steffi?
Oh, I know, right? Oh my God. Oh my God. Speaking of being almost envious, oh my God. The way
It isn't.
the ideas that y'all come up with. I mean, and all three of you, because Pete, you're another one. And there's so many. I mean, it's just, yeah, yeah. Go
And
ahead.
this is another one also by Steffi. And this is really a created abstract shot. And I had to look. I mean, I didn't really have the time, a lot of time to look, but I really had to look twice
I
or thrice to really get it. And that this is basically a portrait, right? Or
Yeah,
self-portrait,
because she's
even.
she's right there to kind of to the right, and I'm like you. I had to look at it a few times to think, like, what am I looking at?
Looks like
I knew,
a long time exposure.
yeah, with, and I don't know what she did with the lights here, but man, that is, yeah. I've told
Like a,
Steffi, I'm just so envious of her creativity, the stuff that she does, and it's always so perfect. It's it's flawless. It's just, you never, and it's like,
But
It's
here's the
technically
thing.
perfect.
Can I say one thing about what we talked in the beginning about community and Tumblr, and I mean, Tumblr is by no means a perfect platform, not at all. But there is a very unique way how people interact on Tumblr, specifically with all these supporting blogs that really support also each other. I mean, like, if we just talk about like photos worth seeing, the abstract, well, okay, abstract challenge and photos worth seeing are kind of sort of connected in terms of that both Steph and I are also part of both blogs, right? But like when we say, for example, Luxlit is a completely different blog with a completely different approach to supporting photography on Tumblr than photos worth seeing is. Then we have blogs like you mentioned it, Lens Blur, imaging, the Photographer Society, Camera Raw, I stumbled upon, whatever. Please don't. Original photographers also, and there's no competition between these blogs. It
There
is
used to
really.
be, but that's changed.
No, that has changed into the positive. There used to
Yes.
be, but that's stuff that is years ago, and I really I'm this is one of the things that I'm really proud of in my life, that I did my bit, one tiny little bit, in helping to um, to to get things together in because I had the feeling that, or I have the feeling that by trying to create a community and trying to talk with people and trying to get people together, and I don't say by no means that this I was the one, no, not at all, not at all, but I'm proud and I'm happy to say that I was part of this, this growing together uh, part of the Tumblr photographic community. And this is something I think that's in the whole World Wide Web very unique.
Yeah.
And I don't know any platform that is even in the remotest similar to that. And this is because we do stuff. And with we, I mean like the community, right? We do stuff and there's someone who has an idea and others take on that idea. I don't know, blog XYZ features a photographer. Another blog says, "Oh, cool! They feature them too." We post stuff on the Abstract Challenge. Other supporting blogs reblog that or share that with their followers, etc., etc. So this is a really cool and very very unique community that grew organically over the last yeah, I don't know, 8 years since I've been part of this, and this is really awesome. And things like that, things like this photo are results of that. None of this would have been possible without the and I think I'm allowed to also speak for Steph here, that none of this would have been possible without the community on Tumblr. And I don't think that's it would have been a different thing on other platforms, but this exact way only possible with the photographic community on Tumblr.
Totally. And I have to say, I mean, which I did say before, but it is the platform itself that gives us the freedom to do all of this stuff.
Yeah, because it's not this elitist. We're photographers and we do photography and we are. It is a platform of it is a blogging platform with all
Right.
sorts of
So it's
people and all sorts of
right.
who do all sorts of things.
But
right?
also technically, just in the technical, the design of it, the way that you can do, writing, you can do pictures, you can do add a GIF, you can do whatever you want, and then you can keep adding stuff to when you reblog. I mean, that's one of the layers when you see these, 10,000 reblog posts that have all these responses and all that stuff, replies. I mean, it really it's very broad, and I think that's what helps us, and I'm sure other artistic or whatever communities sort of form around in our own little hub, because you can literally share any kind of content
Right.
in Tumblr. It is
And we get inspiration by all other sorts of artists,
yes, by all,
right? Not only photographers.
right, and you can follow that, which is the other thing. You can follow all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's just I think it's the coolest, and I don't think that other platforms necessarily have the elitist thing. I think what they do have though is which is again what I found, what I was talking about earlier, that I'm this kind of photographer, and so this is our community. The other thing which that and interestingly helped me get through the last year for sure. Amen, bud. And it was Sean Tucker on a podcast. He was talking about how he would like to form a community, and that's what I find made me realize that what's really cool about Tumblr too is that we all just sort of discover each other and join, and sometimes leave, and sometimes come back or don't. But it's a very organic way of finding each other and becoming a part of it, as opposed to, oh, this is for photographers.
But I
whatever.
also think
So,
that
can I just ask Steph on the chat how she did that?
Yes.
Did that photo? Let's talk about the photo. But so she'll probably takes a because of the delay between what we say and how
Yeah.
it gets out.
So go ahead,
Probably
Amy. What were you
takes
going to say?
I don't know.
No,
That was 2 seconds ago.
no, stop.
No, I think the one thing about Tumblr compared to other platforms is we and we help people to
Yes.
make their way into the community. We have always been very welcoming of new photographers that come in, and some people want to be a part of the community and others are quite happy just to post and never get any sort of feedback or likes or whatever. And if that's what you want, that's fine. But I think that's the one thing is that it's just we've always been very welcoming, very open, trying to help people.
Yep.
Right.
So,
So
Steph,
Steph, right? She was. It's a long time exposure, and she was dancing with a ring light. So there's
get
that.
the color.
Explains the ring.
Was the color part of already on the ring light, or did you add that in post? And of course, it'll take a couple of minutes. And by the way, while we're waiting for Steffi to hopefully answer, yeah, Steffi, how did you get that color? Because that's what makes me even more curious. Did you do it in post? We're at a minute and
Oh, yeah.
51. What an hour and 51 minutes. I think it's time to wrap it up, Pete. But before we wrap it up, let's wait for Steffi. Well, let me ask Amy this. Do you have any sort of idea or plans for your next photographic adventure, or are you happy where you are now?
I think I'm always looking out for new ideas because, like I said, I have a hamster brain, and it's very. I have to keep, in order for me to keep interested, I have to keep trying to come up with things if there's nothing going on. Like I was saying, the spring has been a washout, and so going outside and shooting is just it's been hard, and so I have to figure out other things to do. So I've been shooting lights, distorted lights, Christmas lights in a vase that has a texture on the outside, using macro tubes and vintage lenses, and so you get these really crazy. What do I want to say? Just this distorted lights. And then Kendra and I were continuing to kind of work on the collab that we've kind of got going on, and we took the geometry thing a bit further. So
Right. That's true. I forgot about that. What was I going to ask you?
Let me just for our viewers. How can I put that back on here? Steph wrote that the ring light, can change the color. So it was done in camera and not in post. So getting the color of the light was actually a colored light. It's pretty
Alright.
cool.
Damn
Pretty
it.
cool.
So
Oops.
I do have one other question, and then I'm done because I think we should wrap it up. Do you consider yourself, Amy, more of a technical photographer or an art?
Arts.
In other words, do you have the eye, as opposed to being something?
Do you have the eye?
Do I have the eye? I have 4 of them, as a matter of fact.
4?
Yeah, 4 eyes, glasses, and 4 eyes.
Yeah.
It's a English expression, American and English. There you go. There you go. Now you're
you have
4 eyed
four
too.
eyes.
Oh, that's interesting because you are very knowledgeable and you are very much into like the vintage lenses and so on. So I think of you honestly as a combination of, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, I would say that. I also just say I wing it a lot. You know, is the camera set up right? I don't care. Let's just see what happens. And that's the nice thing about digital. You can always just go back and delete.
Or you can go
So,
into post and create magic. I mean, I
but
have a couple that were mistakes.
yeah, I've that was what I was talking with Robert the other night. Is like, sometimes you can take those not so great, take them into post and manipulate them or do whatever. And, thanks, bud.
Yes, 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 but completely agree, by the way. Yes, both of them are, again, I'm almost envious of them.
I think Steph is very much more technical, in my opinion. I think between between the three of you, you guys you seem to be very technically driven.
Really?
I could be wrong. Well, I mean, you've. This is just obviously my perception because I don't know that you guys, especially you, Fern, you kind of are very not technical. I'm talking about technicalities within the camera, making sure that things are set up right, that making sure where
But so
Stephanie,
he certainly is
Stephanie's
more
very
than
much
me.
more.
Well,
Very
that's
certain.
no, because to be honest, I mean, most of the, I have two settings, and I always shoot aperture. I mean, aperture priority.
Priority.
And I have my if I'm doing the architecture or flowers, um, I shoot almost always um, wide open. So it's at either f4 for the zoom or
That is wide
f1.8
open?
wide open. I almost always shoot
F4 is wide open for you?
for the zoom, yeah,
Okay,
because
okay, so wide is on the zoom.
on the zoom is
Okay,
four.
okay, got you.
And then for the 55 millimeter prime, it's 1.8. I mean, sometimes I'll vary that for portraits or some stuff, but usually because of the distance that I'm from the architecture stuff, it doesn't matter really. So I just shoot wide open because there's no depth of field involved really. Um, but and then the other one is for street. I change it to f7 point whatever or f8.
7.1.
There you go, 7.1 or 8. But I other than that, I really don't. Yeah, I don't shoot manual. Yeah, I just let it run. Auto ISO and yeah, aperture exposure. I mean, aperture priority.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
That's
that's
it.
what I
think
do most of the time as well. I mostly shoot aperture priority. And if I don't get the result I want, then I change to manual because I'm too lazy to fuck around with the exposure compensation. This is because yeah,
See,
I
no,
I,
I do also
I
use the
shoot aperture
compensation.
priority. That's it.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
I have a question for y'all. Do you do the what is it the not monkey mode, whatever. The looking at, do you look
chimping
at the chimp? Do you
yep,
chimp?
yep,
all of the fucking time.
yep.
Really?
Every shot.
Really?
Yep,
No way.
yep.
That's fascinating. See, I rarely ever. And actually as time passes, I use it less and less.
I
Yeah,
have
no.
to I have to say though that in my case, I very often have let me show show you because I can't explain. Okay, I don't have a card in my camera, so I should put a card in the camera. um, because Um, but there are no photos on the card. Okay. Because now this is my video card. I have a 28 gigabyte card that I use for video. And I certainly won't show you the videos that I take because they're all on my YouTube anyway. No, I usually have my camera set up this way, so my photo is very small. So what I do is not to check the composition of the shot because I see the composition through the viewfinder anyway, and I only press the shutter if the composition is right. I check the histogram whether everything is whether all the tones are where I want them to be. So
You
this
ain't
is, and I do that all of the time, like Amy said, like every
I
shot.
I tend to look because sometimes I'm shooting and there's a breeze, and if I'm doing macro,
Mm,
I want to make sure that that
it's in
it's
focus.
not, well, it's in focus and it's not cut off or
All right.
whatever. So yeah,
Yeah,
do
right. In that case, yeah, right. True.
so in post, because you already mentioned you look at the histograms. Do either one of you look at the histograms
All the
in
time.
post?
Most important tool.
uh,
Really?
The only important tool, actually.
yes and no. My photographs always tend to be darker because I if I'm shooting with my broken Porst lens, which is 1.2 f.1.2, I compensate by going a good stop under, just because the lens is broken and I can't. It's stuck at 1.2, and if I
Mm.
want to use that lens, then I have to compensate it on the other end.
That's
So
interesting. I think I've used no, I can't remember when I've ever used the histograms ever. I just shoot do it by eye. I I guess I'm kind of old school. Like if I was in a dark room, I just realized I just go by eye. I just yeah.
I use the histogram once I get it into post, just to see where I am, and then I can adjust my levels that way. My black point, my white point.
Actually, I will take that back. The only time I use the histograms is in the what is it HGS, and that is because sometimes I'll move a color and see if it's going, but a lot of times I'll just move a specific color back and forth just to see the histogram move. But I don't give a rat's ass. I don't. In post, I'm talking about. Again, I just go by eye. I just go by what I see. Which, speaking of making mistakes, sometimes what happens to me is that because I tend to have my, like right now, I have my display at half a brightness. So sometimes I'll do the photos in half brightness, and then I
But
go,
yeah, but that's actually that's the one of the reasons why I I taught myself to look at the histogram every time because this was one of the harshest lessons that I ever had to go through. It was actually a portrait shooting. We shot in a basement without any ambient light, so only with flashes. I had no experience whatsoever in portrait photography back then, and even less experience with flashes. And I just had my display set at a too bright a value because I was shooting outside first. So I always like you said, looked at the images by eye, right? And they all turned out way too dark,
Hmm.
like two stops too dark. So I had to push them all like two stops in post, which back then this was like 10 years ago or something with back then with the Canon 550D, which wasn't a bad camera back then, still isn't a bad camera now, but at if you really have to push even a raw two stops, not so cool, right?
well,
So And so this is why I because I looked at the photos, they look good because the display was too bright.
Yeah, but I'm
And
not talking about the display on the camera. I'm talking about my
right.
display post.
Okay, I'm sorry, then I
No,
misunderstood.
I don't look at I don't care. I mean, I might look at, like, after I finish and I'm home or something, or on the way if I'm on the train or something, or to show someone what I've taken pictures of. The rear display on my camera is almost useless for me. Almost. No, I'm
Yeah,
talking about the in post. Display was too dark, and I kept compensating and bringing up. Anyway, Amy, what were you going to say?
I couldn't live without my display on the back of my camera. I mean, it literally, when I was looking for cameras, when I bought this, when I decided to get this, it's like, does it have a tilty screen? If it doesn't have a tilty screen, I don't want it.
Now, wait, does yours have?
It's like it has to have
Right.
that.
But is it just the up and down, or does it also do?
Oh, it flips. It flips. And
Flippy screen
goes
Flippy
out,
screen
flips
is the
around.
best. If it
It's
doesn't
a
have a
totally
flippy
flippy
screen,
screen.
you could throw the camera away.
See,
Exactly.
mine
It's worthless.
does up and down, but it doesn't do to the side, which again doesn't. I could care less.
Yeah, no, it had. Well, again, if you're shooting macro, it's odd angles.
Yeah.
If you're doing whatever, it's odd angles, and it's like, I'm not a little tiny woman, I'm a big woman, and so it's not a matter of me. Nobody wants to see my butt in the air, okay? So it's like this. I need this screen to do this. So
That's funny because maybe it's because of the fact that the whole bending and getting down on. I don't even think of getting. I mean, maybe every once in a while getting close to something, but even with some of the architecture, sometimes I've thought, I wonder. Nah, I don't even. I rarely think about it. I wonder what it'll look like if I got lower. I just see what I see and take a picture of it.
yeah, well, that's there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's
No,
the
no,
way
not
you,
at all.
that's your process.
It gives us a lot of different possibilities to
Yes.
shoot. And if you're, I think it's a thing. I had a lot of discussions with people who say, no, the flip up screen is perfectly I don't need a flippy screen that can tilt and twist and whatever the Canon camera screens can. The thing is, I'm so used to that because I'm used to that sort of flippy screen from camcorders, and I'm used to working with those, and I just I work in a way that I need a screen like that, and I use angles that I can't
Mhm.
couldn't get with a different kind of screen, like the ones that you can only flip up. Or so I think it's a matter of how you're used to work. I think if I would work with a camera like that for half a year or something, then I could compensate. But you simply can't do certain stuff with a screen that you can't flip completely. So maybe you can do other stuff with those things. I don't know, but certainly not that. And if you want to do stuff like that, and I want to do stuff like that because I'm used to doing stuff like that, then you need a flippy screen, definitely.
Remember, though, there is the app where you can actually see, so you don't
Yeah,
really.
right. This is perfect, and I love that, and I use it very much to by far not often enough. And I
You're talking
tried
about
it lately for video, and it doesn't really work for video, at least not the way I want it. But this is brilliant.
Are you talking
Um,
about the Canon app?
right, the Canon app, so you can actually see the picture on your phone or on your tablet, and you can remote control your camera with your smartphone.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
I've never used it. I downloaded it and I've never used it.
I've actually used it a couple of times for the selfies, but that's been
Oh, that's
pretty
a good
much it.
idea. That's a
Yeah.
very good idea.
Yeah, for the
So that
selfies.
you can always have. This is what when you do selfies, like, oh, we should do a selfie Sunday soon. I remember on photos was seeing. So there will be a selfie Sunday soon. But this is something that bugged me a lot when you specifically when you put the camera away and you have, like, you have maybe you have a remote control, but then it's like this 2 seconds delay or 10 seconds, and sometimes you have to to press the shutter on the camera and then run into place. And wow, so the, really basically checking the display of the camera on your phone or on your tablet, and then this is pretty neat.
And you can set a timer too, so you can still
set a timer. You can focus. You can do everything. You can do all the settings on your. You can even have a histogram on your phone, right? Which is pretty awesome.
no histograms. Okay, histogram 209 41 seconds. Time to go. Yes, I'm sure Amy's tired of listening to us.
No, but yeah, our day is ending, your day is beginning. So
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's lunchtime. It's lunchtime, and I don't even know what I want to eat. I do know what I want to eat. I have some rice with eggplant and sun-dried tomatoes, and yeah, it's good stuff.
There you go.
So yes, Pete, you want to take it away and wrap?
Take it away. So, I think this was a pretty fascinating discussion we had. A pretty fascinating conversation.
Thank you, Amy.
thanks for
Thank you,
inviting me.
Amy. Yeah, thanks to Amy, and thank you, Amy, for this. And as usual, it was a bit chaotic, but that's what you like about us, don't you? And so, yeah, thank you, Amy, for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing your photography and your expertise and your knowledge with us. Also, thank you, Fern, for being Fern. And thank you all, you wonderful people in the chat today, specifically Bud and Steph. And I think that was it for today in the chat. So yeah, we would love to see your photos. We would love to talk about your photos. We definitely will do another photo critiquing session soon, because that was always, for us, it's always a lot of fun. We learn more than we actually have fun while doing that. While at least if I can talk about me, then I would say learning is fun for me. So this is a wonderful thing, and if we combine it, doing this stuff. So with all that having said, thank you very, very much. I hope you'll all have a wonderful weekend, and I hope we'll see you soon.
Bye.
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 And we'll click on end broadcast.